I'm fucked. I'm oh okay. Okay. I it took me a bit to realize that I was streaming, I'll be honest. I was just like I was just looking at I was looking at my phone and I was like, man, this music's going on for a while. And then I remembered that I was streaming and I was like, oh shit. Anyway. Hello everyone. How are we? I hope we're doing so well and we've all had a wonderful few days. It's been pretty streamer surprised. Streamer surprised that streamers live more at 11. It's been a few days. It's been a few days since we last streamed. I'm hoping we can have a good stream today and me get paranoid over this game. Yeah. I don't really know what to expect in this game. Are we surprised there's not Fallout though? That's crazy, right? It's not Fallout? Thank goodness, this is gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna will this make it on the YouTube? Hi YouTube! Hi if it does! Oh my god. I literally have no editor. This is none of my streams are making it to YouTube. Let's be honest, right? How are we? How are you, Super? I hope you're having a wonderful time. I'm so ungodly relaxed right now. It's crazy. It's crazy. I think this should be I think this should be a every stream occurrence. I think this should be an every stream occurrence. It won't. Just a little sweet treat every now and then. Little sweet little treat. I take because of my pain. I just want to say that now. Hi Space. Hi. It's because your body knew I was about to go live, so it gave you a stomach ache. I'm not even kidding. I caused stomach ache. You're exhausted. Yes! Yes! We're gonna have such a happy, positive, fun little stream. It's gonna be so good. Chat. It's gonna be so good. Okay? I need to cough really bad. Hold on now. Chat. This game. I don't even know what this game is about. I have no idea. I just know that it's a anonymously game. Yeah. Hi chat. Hi. How are we? Hi. I'm here and I'm alive and I'm here to play this paranoia game. It's gonna be so good. Trying to get to the exit 8. Exactly. You're on it, Super. You're on it. You know what? You're on it. Okay. All right. Be sure to read the instructions. Read. Okay. All right. I don't know how to. Where are the instructions? Whee! Hello. Where we going? How far does this go? How far does this? Oh, hello. What's this? Makeup art. Do I have to? No. Where are we going? La da dee, la da do, la da da. Oh. We're supposed to go that way? Concourse. Wee. 0. Level 0. Okay. This is so fine. I know exactly what we're doing. Hey man. They're on the yellow paper? Oh. Okay. Well. Well, okay. What's this? Security camera in operation. Is that it there? Hello, sir. Hello. Zero. Was it this yellow paper? Was it this yellow paper? Was it this one? Didn't see any. I wanna meet her. Blinds wide open, she's dark when I'm sleeping. Self after hours. Sleep alone in your bedroom. In your bed. Check your window. Is that your window? What is happening? I didn't even. What's happening? Hi, stupid. Hi. Hi. Blast. Did I break the game? Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Oh no. No. Blind home. Hi, stupid. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope you're having just the best time ever. Are you streaming right now? I think I remember before I streamed, I checked everyone out and you were streaming. Don't overlook any anomalies. You just finished? Oh, how was stream? I hope it was well. If you find anomalies, turn back immediately. If you don't find anomalies, don't turn back. To go out from exit 8. I'm gonna cough up my lungs. I'm gonna cough up my lungs. I'm so glad you had a lovely time. One security camera. The person, red, blue, yellow, white, free closed doors, free camera, blue red light, blind wide open, guy looks normal, kind of balding. Ooh, so you're kind of balding at the back there. Oh, yikes, 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 yikes. Blind wide open, she's at level 0. Ooh, 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 ooh. Self after hours, you sleep alone in your bedroom. Check your window. Your window. Means you missed it, and I mean, like I know I did, but what? Okay. I turned back because there was a red dot. The red dot wasn't in. There wasn't a red dot, and there was a red dot in the last one. Did I fuck up already? Oh, this game's hit it. This game, this game's gonna piss me off. Oh, got it. Zero. And touch yourself after hours. Hi, capitalism. Hi. I don't understand how you're doing such a good job of making the game not work. What do you mean? I think. What do you mean exactly? What do you mean? I'm trying my hardest. Level 1! See, we got it. Level 1. So this is where the anomalies start? Just hide as a playtester? Ah, give me that playtest. Give me that game. You know what I want to play so bad? You know what I want to play so bad? Hades. I want to play Hades so bad. So bad. I don't have money though. I don't have money. I get paid for all my, I get paid fortnightly from my jobs, and even then I can't I can't get games because that's not a good useful thing of my money, like my mom said. And I gotta listen to my mom. Guys, it's Mother's Day tomorrow. It's Mother's Day tomorrow. If you guys should all go spend. You guys should all send a big kiss to your mum and like give her a big ol' hug. I love my mom. Holy. Flies wide open, she touch yourself after hours. Alone in your bedroom. Where does he even go? No smoking? The no smoking? Huh? Yeah! 21 months, that's crazy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Offiji heart offiji yippee.
The no smoking sign? That was there before, right? That was there before, right? Jesus. Stupid. 10 months? I'm gonna kiss everyone on the
Offiji
mouth.
yippee offiji yippee
I'm gonna
offiji
kiss every
yippee
single person on
offiji
the
heart.
I'm gonna kiss every single person on the mouth. I'm gonna grab you guys. I'm gonna go. Gallery is so hard. Lovely. I love DC. No smoking is fine. I was making a joke about the last anomaly. The last anomaly is me and I'm smoking. It's me and I'm smoking and I'm freaking out. I'm like shaking. Then no door. I'm doing great actually. I'm having a wonderful time. I hope you're doing well. We're having such a good day. We're streaming. We are playing this game that apparently I'm really good at. I'm really, really good at this game. Hey, balding guy, how are you? What if I just like back of the head? My hand gets stuck to his head. I'm like, oh my god! My hand like starts going into his head, and I'm like freaking out. Anyway, there's no anomalies here, unless there was, and I was done. What? Was he in what? I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. 1. 3 doors, 2 vents, no smoking, red, blue, yellow, white eye, guy, move fees. Bye-bye. 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 Bye. Is there gonna be a part where I'm gonna witness the guy getting like thrown across? His body's gonna be all like in the wall. I think you can walk back and check the last area if you haven't loaded. Oh, maybe that's what I did. I just started running. Keep left. Ooh, 2. Can I tell you something? Can I let you guys in on a little secret? I literally don't remember any of it. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm doing such a good job at kind of remembering this. I mean, you can see. Oh, but what if it's like a very subtle anomaly? Isn't there like an anomaly that kind of, what's the word? That oh, ouch. No. That like hides in the wall like a face. Thank you for the stretch and hydrate, Cab. You just have to look for the entire hallway. Bye. 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 Get the fuck away. Get out of there. What if I walk past the guy and he goes there in front of me? What do I do? I can't even punch. Punch. I just have to stand there and like, hope that he doesn't go at me. Do the doors have anything suspicious on them? Or not? They wouldn't go that far, right? They wouldn't. There's a ceiling face? What the fuck? What? Oh, yay, yay. I can smell home. I can smell home. What? I'm like so worried. I'm like so worried he's gonna jump at me now. I've gotten in my head. I've gotten it in my head that he's gonna jump at me. Oh, 6? 6. 6. Now what the fuck? How it... Huh? These are good. These are fine. Ceiling face. Ceiling face? Where? Ew! What the... Hey, man. Jump down. Whee! At yourself after hours, you're alone in your bedroom. You're sleeping alone in your bed. That's the most evil anomaly in the how? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. I don't... I hate this guy. I don't trust this. I don't trust this at all. I don't trust this at all. What the... What? Huh? What was the name? What? What was it even... How was it... What was it... What is it... What was it... Huh? What was even the anomaly? Am I stupid? I think I'm stupid. I think this game hates me. This game hates me and he sucks. He sucks and never wants to see me ever again. You're not meant to be there. You're not meant to be there. I think that's not the right room. You wouldn't have known why you failed. That's why the face is evil. Oh. Sneaky little devil. Oh. I wouldn't trust it. I just wouldn't trust it. All around, would not trust that. Am I like meant to remember each little thing? Dog getting brushed. Corgi? Don't know that one. Bull terrier. Is that a bulldog? Or is that a bulldog? Or is this what a bull... Are they... Is it bulldog, bull terrier? Bulldog, bull terrier? Bulldog, bull terrier? Bulldog, bull terrier... Bulldog... Bulldog, bull... 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 Bulldog. Her... Bull terrier. Golden retriever poodle. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Give me that. Give me that. What? Like, is there nothing here? What was it in ew, back, ew, bye, ew, that was disgusting. I'm feeling every inch of my skin right now. He has a weird movement to him and I don't like his legs. I didn't like the way his legs moved just then. Okay. I'm actually freaking out. Well, I just saw the poster, I just saw the poster. Oh my god. Oh my god, it's like that one video, oh my god. It's like that one, It's like that one picture of the fucking ring girl where she's like looking at you. I don't know. I don't know if we know the one. I don't know if we know the one, but she's like looking at you. Ew. Ew. Okay. Ew. Oh, it's like causing for my body. Ew. Okay. Oh, yuck. Yuck, 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 yuck. Yucky, 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 yucky on my tummy, yucky.
That poster be like you've got games on your phone.
No, 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 leave me alone, leave me alone. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Who left the sink open? Like, come on. I'm like, look, I'm like, it's making me really paranoid. I didn't realize. I don't trust this. I don't trust this. There's been too many. We've had no anomalies, and now, oh, ooh, oh, poster? What about poster? How is it meant to, how was I meant to have noticed that? How was I, my favorite drywall eater, hi Rack, hi! I love drywall. Drywall my favorite. I love drywall and mold. No, I was meant to like check posters and stuff. What? Buenos dias, señorita. Hello. Hola. Hola, Daniel. ¿Cómo está? Ooh, for what that sucks. Blah blah. Blah blah. Foghorn. Fog. Thrown up drywall. Speedrun's developing paranoia. I think my like skin is itchy. I like oh, you overate. Hablas español? Ah, little bit. I don't know how to say a little bit in Spanish. I know like a little bit. I know like a little tiny bit of Spanish. Little tiny baby bit. I just like. I'm currently learning on Duolingo. I've given un poquito, poquito. Is that it? I know more French than Spanish, so forgive me. Forgive me. Rack just didn't get any drywall snack. That's so sad. What was the anomaly? This game is like a multiple question choice, and you keep getting B. I don't know what I'm meant to be looking out for. Am I meant to like count the tiles on the wall, or am I meant to like like dap a guy up? What am I meant to do? Ew! Don't smile at me, you freak! Get out of here! Ew! 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 What a bum! I'm being robbed. I gotta count the tiles. 1, 2. I'm too fucked for that. No, I'm good. Eyes wide open. Rack is lying. It's the truth, trust me. Skynet. Ew. Ew. Good day, mate. I literally threw a shrimp on the barbie a couple hours ago. We don't call it shrimp on the barbie. But highway. How are you? Hi. I hope you're having a wonderful time. I hope that prawn because it's prawn. It's good. I hope it was good. Oh, dude, it came on your face. That's good. Oh, ew, get out of here. Get out of here. I was not even paying attention. I was have been getting someone. Hello? Pill conf I don't even want to think about. I don't even want to. Genuinely, don't want to think about that. That'll make me throw up all over the joint again, and I will lose it. Damn, kind of got a little sway to your hips. I like look behind. There's another face. I'm like, oh. The doodle that I promised to draw. Oh my god. That's okay. That's okay. You're okay. You don't need to worry your sweet little head about doing that. Okay. Sweet little. You don't need to worry about nothing. Rack, I honestly think it's just broken. I think it's just broken for you, and I don't know why. Can someone please? Rack, if it happens again, you didn't get a drywall, I'll tell you what happens with the drywall. 0? I'm gonna eat this fucking drywall. It kills me. Okay. How do I even know? I bet it was in the back of the concourse. Oh my god, you're huge! Oh, you're massive! Oh my god. I have to leave. I have to go. He's big and I love him. Oh my god. 5'11" versus 6 foot. Guys, I'm actually 5'5", but on a good day, I'm a good 6'4", okay? I'm a good 6'4". Ew! Chat, what if I just went, I just took you away from me and I was like, delicious. You know, fuck, I'm gonna go. I have to leave. I'm gonna, like, take a step back from the computer. I can't. What I'm hearing is you're 4'11". 5'5", unerect Gigi, 6 foot erect. I love being erect. Yes! Yes! A grower. I'm growing on just stop, chat. Stop it. Chat. Stop it. You got your drywall stack. All that just to chip your tooth. Oh fuck. Oh my god. Okay, I think blinds wide open, she's out. Touch yourself after how. That song is. Excuse me? Ew? What in the. Ew? Gotta leave. Time for more drywall. Wish, chipping your teeth. I'm gonna start questioning my sanity in a second. I'm gonna be so honest. Hey man. You got your phone, you got a briefcase, you got sweat marks? Is this sweat marks? Okay, no, it's just a shadow. I was like, sussy how this guy's sweaty armpits. Oh my god. Yay! You chip again! Can I get a bottle of water? Can I get a bottle of water, please? I actually need water really bad. Sleeping in your bed. I'm like giddy in my head again. I'm like, he's gonna jump at you. He's gonna jump at you and get you. And you won't even know. You won't even know. He can jump at you and get you. Where is he? Is there nothing here? I'm scared. I don't even know what I got right. What did I get wrong? What? There was something, but I didn't know. I just wanted to follow him. I don't even. Hi, Valaris. Hi. Welcome in Valaris? What? What? I'm so confused. I'm actually like... What am I... I'm freaking out. One, two, you're the girl I love. 3, 4. Oh my god. Wait. We're so close. I can practically taste it on my tongue. I can taste it on my tongue, chat. You will not believe I can taste it on my tongue. I'm like checking everything. Huh? Covered in layers of soot and dirt? I don't know what we're talking about. How to butterfingers as a monkey. I'm gonna miss an obvious one. Not if I beat the game. I'm so... Oh. Oh, I don't like this false hope. I don't think I should have. I don't think I don't even. I'm so. I'm like, what is happening? Oh, kissy, come here, Valaris. Mwah. Mwah. Give us big sloppy kiss. What a... I'm like freaking out. I'm freaking out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I could. Why is it not letting me leave? Why is it not letting me leave? Get away. Get away. Why is it not letting me leave? I thought I had it. I thought I had it. What? I have to get a good 8? What do you... This is so fucked up. This is so fucked up. I'm gonna start... The eyes were moving. I have to look at my eyes. I have to look out for eyes. Are you kidding me? Once I had this dream where I realized I was dreaming, but I could only watch it like a viewer. The fact the thing that woke me up was a Hollow Knight character saying he was my uncle. I remember you mentioning something about a Hollow Knight character being your uncle. I was like, what? Me? Scream and choke me, Gigi. What are you, huh? You scream and choke you like Homer Simpson with Bart? Last battle. But the Pillock experience sent me to a different dimension where I could no longer move, speak, or talk. That was two of the same things. I did realize that as I spoke it, but it sent me to a whole other dimension where I actually couldn't even quite understand what was going on around me. How mad is this game going to make me? To be Gigi stressful? I don't even, okay, I get stressed, but I don't ever need a stressful. I like being under stress. That is such a weird sentence to say. Let me explain. When I get a little bit high, right? I just pay attention. It's that simple. I'm gonna jump for your screen. I'm gonna jump for your screen and get you. I'm gonna get you. No, when I've had a little bit of the for medical reasons, Twitch, I freak out. I freak out because I'm not like under stress or I'm really relaxed. It's not. Wait, it's not something. Gigi, attention. What? Eyes wide open. But yeah, I freak out because I don't feel any stress. Like the stress in my body is gone and I feel utterly relaxed. No, but because you're easily distracted. What? Wait, what? It is for medical reasons. It is for medical reasons. I'm a little pain, baby. I got pain all from my body. It's for medical reasons. I swear. You can make a pact to be bound to every gaming chair Snake Lady had. Be bound. Like you become the chair, or like we like what? Medical reason, or do you just kinky? Oh, what? Stop it, what the fuck? Ew. Oh my god, your soul live in my walls. You know I think people live in my walls. That's like an actual like, hi Coco, hi, how are you? Hope you're having a great time. It's already possible. You can't even live inside my walls. My house is brick. My house is brick, guys. The only bit of drywall I have is like insulation. Well, what? Yeah, you know. Yeah, you know it. Yeah. You know it. You saw it. Try me, I'm already in there. You're a little tiny ant living in the brick wall of my house. Ew. What do you mean by develop? Am I going too slow? Guys. Fuck. Okay, we're fine. What? No, I meant in real time. I meant chat. I meant in real time. Blinds wide open, 'cause she said, sleep alone in your bedroom. Such a wind. I'll just turn into a rat and dig through the bricks. And whenever Gigi gets mad from me being nosy, she'll just punch it. What? Yeah, IRL. Don't worry. It's just... What's the anomaly here? Free to have gone. Just throw him at a wall. I wish I had. No, I'm not turning my camera on, guys. Just want to say, everything's hit. It's all hit. We genuinely got to put a stop. We genuinely got to stop and put to just, can we just stop the I'm in your wall bits just for this stream? Just for this stream, because I'm already, just for this stream, we gotta stop the I'm in your wall bits. Just for this stream, chat. I'm being so dead serious. I genuinely started thinking about it and I was just like, and I think it started sending me. I think I just started going down like this hole and I was like, oh shit. Okay, what do I do? I'm chewing my way. No. Oh my god. Blinds wide open. Even before I got it's a tradition. Not when I am severe. Not when I'm severe.
Let's make sure Gigi develops paranoia only in the game.
Exactly. Ew. That looked at me, right? They looked at me, right? They looked at me, right? That was a thing, right? They looked at me, right? Ew. You're breathing in my ear. What the fuck? I gotta leave. Hey man. Hey sir. Nah. Why'd you lose 3 of your teeth? What the fuck happened? In my foundations. I don't even... Foundations? What does that even... Is that a little cave? Are you gonna add a cave room to my house without my knowledge? Are you going to hire a construction team to build out the side of my house? A little cave? Do you not think I would see that? Like, that was like, huh? What? I go out and I'm I'm like freaking out. Eyes wide open. Hmm? It is super. It is. Well, now it's hit. I'm like, ooh. I'm gonna start seeing God. There's gonna be silence in this because I've left my body. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Chat's a construction team. You guys all have little hats. Little hats that you wear. They're like a product of her imagination. I'd start crying. I'd be like, no, this whole time I've been streaming to nobody? What? Like, I don't, like, maybe. I'm so confused. I'm so very, very confused. I don't know. What do they mean by a good exit 8? What do they mean? I don't know what they mean. I'm gonna freak out. What the fuck? Okay. What? Wait, wait. What does it mean? What? What? Exit a what? Exit an 8. Exit an 8? Did I say it? Fuck, I don't remember what I said. The crash, but wake up. Hmm? It was all a dream. I mean, that you can only win if you get to level 8 with no, so you're gonna be stuck on the final level until the game lets you go. Thank you. Thank you for the head pat. Thank you for the head pat. Exit 8. Exit 8. What? What did it eat? What did it eat? It ate fucking demons and anomalies. Hmm? Hmm? I still love you. I still love you. I still love you guys. You guys, I love you guys. You guys mean so much to me. Sorry, I just had to like hack up my lungs for a second. Sorry, chat. Sorry, I'm not playing the game right now because I just had to hack up my lungs. To the Yap Master. I've been named the Yap Master. I'll take my hat with pride, please. I will get on my knees and be bestowed the crown of yapping from the Yap Queen. I will become the new Yap Queen. And everyone would yap, and my kingdom would be so yapful that people would come here because I feel slow. I'm good. I just have to the skin. The skin. Hello, hold on. The sign. I was like, the skin? Where did I read skin from? The sign? Okay, well, I'll trust. I'll trust. How does this game actually work? You're meant to run through these different levels and search for the anomaly. If there's an anomaly, you turn back, and if there's not, you go forward and you go up to the next level. And you're meant to try and get up to level 8, but for some reason it will only let you go. It's an anomaly itself, so it will let you go when it's ready, kind of thing. If that makes sense. If that makes sense. I sometimes read skin too when people have things written on their skin. Like tattoos. I'll let you know. I'll let you know in a second. We're at level 0. We're at level 0. We're working our way anonymously. Anonymally. The level is visible on the yellow sign. Level 8, guys. I won't even. Tattoos. I have many tattoos on my skin. I think I have in total like maybe 8 or 11. It's just one big jump up. I don't know. I can't. It's like either 8 or 11. You know what I mean? You know, you get it. You get it. You got a little swagger. You got a little cunt to your little hip movements, sir. Love that. Turn back. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Don't need to tell me 3 times, because anytime you tell me something to do 3 times, if you tell me something to do it, if you tell me to do something 3 times, I will do it. if you're like, Gigi, you're doing great, you go Gigi, go Gigi, go I'll do whatever. I'll do whatever you want, honestly. Like, just say my name 3 times, and I'm like, yep. Yep, let me jump off that cliff for you, queen. Let me... I'm just gonna jump back up. Gigi, you're cute. You say, oh, it's so I'm cute. Okay, cool. You could do this. You we believe in you, Gigi. Please, I'm on my knees. I beg you, send a picture of moldy bread. Actually, chat, I haven't eaten moldy bread in so long. The doors are tiny. Why are the doors so tiny? I haven't eaten moldy bread in so long. You'd be so proud of me. You would be so proud of me because I don't eat moldy bread anymore. I've moved on from this world. I myself am not a moldy bread eater anymore. I'm actually queen of the normal bread. I'm actually queen of the normal bread, you know? Hello? Just turn back around. Just gonna turn back around real good, yeah. What? Something just happened and I don't know what just happened, but I feel like it just didn't happen. It feels like it didn't, like, I swear the room was backwards. That's why I turned around. I swear the room was backwards. I swear on my mama, I swear on everyone that the room was backwards, and I was like, that's not right. So then I turned around and it was eat moldy bread, Gigi. No, I thought no. What? I don't remember what happened. I don't remember. I thought all the doors were on the left and all the doors and then all the posters were on the right. That's why I okay. 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 Wait. I don't okay. Anyway. Let's fucking continue on. I can't. I don't even know if I'm making sense anymore. Was that a person there? Door? Where? There's a door and a door free. Door free? Ew! Okay. Yeah. Gigi on her normal bread arc. I am on my normal bread arc. I don't really eat that much bread now because of the mold incident. I'm a bit scared to eat bread because of the mold incident, and I'm a little bit, don't want to eat bread anymore. Look down. Bye. Bye. Imagine a door like that. If I go to open a door and I go to the left to open the door handle and it's not there, what? Like I would be so upset and I wouldn't know what to do. I need to get soundproofy. I can hear my voice bouncing off the walls. Am I like echoey for chat? Can you like hear my voice being echoey in the room? I feel like it's bouncing off the walls. I might need to get some soundproofing. No, you're good. Any more than once. I don't know, it just feels like it just feels like ooh, like it's bouncing off the walls and I can hear it. It's like, one Gigi, thank goodness. Imagine two. God, that would just be the worst. That is huge, right? That's like a lot bigger, right? That's massive, right? Has this always been massive? Has this always been huge? I feel like it has not been huge. I feel like that was a lot lower. Right? Two would be the end of the... Could you imagine the yap session? Oh my god. It was actually not... I just... What? I can hear my voice bouncing off the walls. The panel looks fine. It looks too huge. It looks too big. It looks way too big. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking every little thing that I have now. I was just overthinking everything. What a fantastic end to the world that would be. I would be the worst. I think I'd yap everyone's ear. Bye. Nope, 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 no, 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 nope, nope, nope. Oh, okay. Champion, so this turned me into a bad high. Champion, two clever bots together? Oh my god. Chat. Is there gonna be something that happens and then I'm gonna scream and hate everything and need to leave? What's going on? Which would win the badge? Oh, me. Just me. One greatest yapper in the world. I'll just kill the other. That's just... I'll get her. Money on Gigi? Yeah, my money's on Gigi too. So I keep getting to the exit. But then it just doesn't ever let me go. What do I gotta do? Who do I have to kiss? Who do I have to kiss to be let gone? Game, if you can hear me. Game, if you can hear me. You'll give me a big kiss, right? I'll give you a big, me. Hi, Ryder. Game, if you can hear me, if you let me go, I'll give you a big old kiss. Big huge kiss. If you let me... Do I trust this? Do I trust this? Do I trust this? Is that... Wait, what? Wait. There's no way. There is no way. There is no way. I say I'll give the game a kiss if it gives me an exit and then I get the exit. Are you kidding me? Everyone come here. Everyone let's make count. Everyone mwah. 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 Just got a bribe with kisses. Honestly, okay, hold on guys. This is a little bit personal between me and the game right now. We need some time. We need some time alone, okay? We need some time alone, alright? You gotta give me a minute. I have to go kiss a game real quick. You can resist the Gigi smooches. Now we get to hunt the rest. There's more. There's more. Thank you for using the underground passageway. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause you. There are 3 anomalies that have not been found. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation. Oh, what? I was thorough? Damn. So I technically finished the game, but now I just haven't seen the other 3 anomalies. Okay, well, do I even want to... I can speedrun this. I've got it. I've got this. I've got this. One. Oh, will it tell us? Will it tell us when we found more anomalies? That's good. So I could just actually speedrun this because it would just give me different anomalies every time, right? That's like a thing, yeah? Bum, 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 bum. The number on the white paper was the number of anomalies spawning. Oh, okay. Well, we're missing 3. If I've identified them correctly, what does that even mean? What do they mean by that? The backside of that man's head is an anomaly. Got that. I know, right? He's like balding. It's sad. Oh, bye. That. Yuck. Ew. Did it go down? Because that wasn't an anomaly I've ever seen. This too. Ew. Oh my god, it's like coursing from my veins. Ew. Yuck. Okay, we're fine. Right. We're okay. We're okay? We're okay. We've done it. We've done it. We've done it. We've done it. Chat, if you ever want to finish again. I didn't like this guy's head. I didn't like how he moved. I didn't like his head. Oh, he's just following me. He's just following me. I gotta go. I have to leave. Just bribe with the smooches. Mwah. One more. What? Okay. Psst. In the next room, let's all pretend to see it's super obvious anomaly and act like Gigi's blind. Shh, don't tell Gigi though. If you guys do that, I'll get you. I'll get you. I'll come for your screen. I'll... What am I? Hello, Mr. Anomaly. I'm not scary. I really would like to see you. You shouldn't be so shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. You can show yourself to me. I would embarrass you. I swear. You're so pretty and beautiful and kind. There's the other anomaly. I did it. I found all the. How long did that take, chat? An hour. An hour. An hour, chat. Finished the game and found them all. What? With a subtle. I hear a cricket. I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna eat it. Yeah. Yeah, and we finished the game again. And we finished the game again. Oh, no big deal. That's no big deal. I need to do one run of that. I need to do one more run. No big deal, guys. That's just how it is, you know. That's just. Oh, please hold your applause. Hold your applause. I know. Finishing in an hour is unheard of. It's unheard of by me. It's because I locked in. It's because I harnessed the alpha energy and I locked in. I went on a different plane of existence that no one has ever been before, okay? And then that's just how Thank you for using our underground passageway. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Alright, pack it up. Pack it up. End stream. Get out of here. Where am I? Hi, chat. Hi. Let's do just chatting for a bit. Let's do just chatting. Can we switch? Can we please switch this to just chatting? Please and thank you. I would appreciate it. Back it up. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Come on. What the fuck is this? Hello, Maddie. Jesus. But Gigi, don't worry. There's gonna be more Gigi time. I'm just finding music. I'm just finding music. This is how AI optimize. Why do I have ads on YouTube? Why do I have ads on YouTube? Why can't I skip this ad? Guys, I can't skip this ad. I can't skip this ad. I don't know. It goes on for a minute. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Fuck you. It went on for a minute. Oh my god. Anyway. Jesus. Chat, can I talk to you about something? Is it at least a good... No, it was about AI. It was about AI and it was silly and stupid. Chat, can I be so honest with you for a second? Last night I also got dangerously high. And during that time, I couldn't really move from my bed, right? And what happened was something strange, something crazy almost. I fell asleep to watching POVs of breakfast service and making pasta and another breakfast service. In total, that's 5 hours. That's 5 hours. Let me just get here, guys, here. Look, this is I watched 5 hours. I watched 5 hours of POV breakfast services. Put them on. Put them on, good sir. Okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. You would not believe. You would not believe. It was just so good. It was just so good watching someone else make like breakfast service. I was eating it up. I was like, this would be me. I would get this and this. Like, are you kidding me with this? Like, he's getting everything ready and prepped. It looks so good. It looks so good for no reason, you know? The Red Bull ad I got when Red Bull made someone cock his best friend because of jealousy. 5 hours? What? What? Remember how I was poured to another stream somehow? Oh, really? I hope whoever this stream is like the back ribs. I honestly think it is, because the amount of times. He's too loud. He's too loud. The amount of times that, like, guys, do not put the letters PU and T in Twitch at 3 a.m. Don't. I don't know, the amount of times I've had, like, so many people be like, oh, you streamed, I didn't get a notification. I'm like, okay. I think I'm like shadow banned off every surface. I think that's genuinely it. And like, I'm shadow banned. That's like that's horrid. Shadow banned on Twitch, shadow banned on Twitter. I tried posting a tweet the other day. I think I posted it 4 times because in the course of like 4 hours, like every time I posted it after I waited a bit, there would be no likes. And I'm like, this is like bad. So I would have to delete it. Because I'm like, there's no way I'm shadow banned again. Like what the fuck? In Discord. I think shadow banned your whole account. See, like, it's crazy. And apparently Twitter's like gotten better at showing smaller accounts. And there was an account where they're like, oh my god, you can see me, hello, and they had like 100,000 followers, and I was like, what? I was like, that wouldn't really be considered a small account, right? Like, a small account is someone that has less than 1,000, right? Like, that would be a small account. That should be more pushed. In every like, from Twitch to Twitter, the smaller accounts should be pushed, and they say, oh, we do, but it doesn't, and they're liars. And you can ban my account and get rid of me if you want, but that just only proves my point. The algorithm's doing a great job. It is. It's doing such a good job. Do you know how long it's taken me to breach past 600 followers on here? Like, I get that I don't already stream, but the fact that, like, I barely get my stream shown is crazy. You're not shadow banned, but you are removed from the suggest. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Thank you for doing that, but what does that even mean? I'm removed from the suggested search? Am I just shadow banned, but like in like a foreplay sense? Like, they haven't actually given me the whole boot? That's so... what? That's so mean. That's so mean of Twitter and Twitch. Oh, fuck, that plate of food looks so good. You can't. Oh, I could go for some beans right now. I could go for a whole can of beans with the sausage and the bacon and a hash brown. Oh my god. That explains a lot. That does explain a lot. That's just sad. That's just sad. What? It's so strange. I've been trying so hard. Me and the boys are free. I'm looking for beans.
Me and the boys at 3 a.m. looking for beans.
Yeah. They're really hard to find on Tuna. And like my stuff doesn't really get shown anyway. And like I'm not like a big streamer of any kind, but like, oh my god, that looks so good. Oh, I would put my hand on that. I would put my hand right on that. Oh my god. So it'll be harder to find you, but you're not completely shadow banned like others. Wow. You literally don't even show up in searches. Really? What? Ofig 2. Opig 2. What is it? Ofig. Really? That's so weird. That is so weird though. I don't know. Maybe it's on me for not having a bunch of stuff to post, but I still kind of post like little shitty tweets every now and then. It's very strange. Please take that egg. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So give me that egg. Give me that egg and I will literally eat it. I'll put it in my hand. God, I love eggs so much. I could make egg right now. I can make egg and bean. I have bean. I have egg. Find by searching their name, finding people's post where they tag her, and then I get there through the tag. Wow. That's actually crazy. Like, how do you even beat that? Because if you just post a lot, wouldn't that keep you shadow banned? If you post all the time, wouldn't that just keep you out of the algorithm? Or if you post all the time, would that put you in the algorithm? But I post quite a bit. I'm an idiot and I kind of just do shit, right? So like, I think like genuinely, I need to make this bigger for everyone. I feel like it's too small. Genuinely, like, what do you even do in that sense? You know? What do you even do? I'm feeling the hunger. It's because we're all talking about eggs. I have egg. I have bean. I have hash brown on plate. But like, what do you even do in the sense like that, you know? Everyone should go eat. Everyone should go have a yummy food. Oh my god. Everyone should go have yummy food. I need to stretch. Oh my god, my back. Sorry, I was stretching. I looked into it for another friend who got shadow banned. Something that genuinely helps is making one of those I've been shadow banned posts where you ask for a like and a retweet. May sound cringe. Oh really? Oh god, I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I don't like asking for support. Never seen that before. He's touching the eggs. What the fuck? I was stretchy. I needed to see. Oh god, those hash browns look so good. I could actually. I would just ask for that whole fucking tray. I would get there and I'd just be like, listen man, I had a rough night, and I didn't. I'd just lie. I'd be like, I had a rough night. My wife left me. My kids don't love me. I've lost 20,000 grand to the pokies. I just need that plate of hash browns right now. And he'd give it to me because he'd feel bad. And that's how you get a free plate of hash browns. I might have to do it. I've been shadow banned posts. It's really sad. It would make sense because it feels like I'm literally like fighting for my life sometimes. I feel like I've been literally fighting for my life and I don't know what to do. I know what to do. It's to post more. It's to post more. And maybe have, like, I very often... No, it's true, I very... Really? Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'll have to definitely do that. I'll have to definitely do that. Search band? Maybe. I could do like attention, attention all. I've been searched / shadow banned. If you could, I would. This would be me. This would be fucking me. I would only want the hash browns. I'd be like, can I please have your biggest box of hash browns, sir? That would be me. And then no one. I'd tell everyone in the restaurant not to look at me, because if they looked at me, they'd see like the wrath of God, because I would be devouring those hash browns in the corner. Oh my God. Oh, I could really... God, I want hash browns so bad. Where's this restaurant? Because the other breakfast places like this I've seen, you just pick the stuff out yourself with tongs. I don't know. It was rainbow something. It was rainbow something. Twitter is such a bad platform. Same with Twitch. Don't kill me. Don't kill me, Twitch. I genuinely love you. I genuinely love you, Twitch. Please hear this. Please hear this. I genuinely love you. But your like what's it called, search place where to find people is so bad. It's so bad. Do you know how many VTubers I have followed personally where they have also talked about how like them getting like on someone's For You page is very, very slim. It is disheartening, Twitch. Gigi hates you. No. If that's the case, I'd have to move to YouTube, and I don't know YouTube as well. I only know Twitch, and all my favorite people are on Twitch. Twitch, I love you. Please, you have Big T on here. Twitch, you have Big T on Twitch.
Remember, Gigi, you can always take back any statement by
For
saying
legal
for legal
reasons. That's a joke. Legal reasons. Everything I've said is a joke. Okay, it's all been a joke. All been one big funnies. Okay. There is no outreach for smaller streamers. There is no outreach, and it's sad. I'm genuinely fighting for my life some days. But despite it all, I love streaming, and now with the help of as we've been saying, my anxiety has gone down so much, and I'm actually a very not anxious person anymore. Which makes me... Is he making fucking scrambled eggs? Which makes me feel even more excited to stream, because I literally just am so anxious all the time that I don't want to stream because of it. But now that it's gone, I'm thinking of doing just streams whenever I feel like it, chat. I'm just thinking of doing like maybe late night streams, maybe early morning streams, maybe afternoon streams. I'm that chilled now, it's crazy. There's no anxiousness in my body when I do these. All the platforms are good for people who are big, but they suck at getting bigger. The only reason they're even letting small stream is that maybe 1 in 100,000 make it big enough to bring avenue to... Yeah. Very efficient. YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram are the current meta for exposure. I don't have TikTok. I do have TikTok, but I don't have it anymore. And like, I don't know, to get like my clips edited, I need to have money to spare, if that makes sense. So at the moment, short form content is kind of sparse, because it just tells how... Okay, those kind of look shit. That actually looks really shit. Oh, he's making an omelet. Now hold on, we could actually be going somewhere. I could fuck up an omelet too. Chat, what if I just ordered a big breakfast? Just like a huge breakfast. and I just ate it on the street. Will the American... Oh yeah, that's like a whole thing, right? Literally, let him cook, my man. Literally, oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. There was my... Damn, he fucked that up. There was a time when I posted on YouTube, I posted a short, and it actually got a lot of views in a few hours, and I was like, whoa! Whoa! And it was just everyone being like, this doesn't, why would you laugh at that? That's not funny, to my overriding my sister's Pokemon saves. And they're just like, you're not funny. And I was like, okay, damn. Like, okay, fucking hell. Jesus, I didn't know I sucked that bad, guys. Damn. It was so bad. I have another one that I still need to post my moldy bread to YouTube. What? Hello, Duke. Hello, Duke. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. Let's give you a shout out. I have no idea if my mod is in chat. I have super here. No kidding. Hi, Duke. Thank you so much for trusting me with your community. How lovely, Randall. Thank you. Super. Hiya. Can we please get it? Can we please get a shout out to Duke? He rated me. Thank you so much for trusting me with your community. Hello, everyone. My name is Gigi, and I am a snake serpent kind of creature VTuber. I hope you had a wonderful time in Duke's stream. What did you play? Ooh, Honkai. I've never played that. I think I played Genshin, because Genshin and Honkai are under the same company, right? I think I played Genshin for a total, like, 2 years. When it came, like, the year that it came out and the year after, and then I never touched it ever again. I got 100% in all the areas that were there, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Honestly, I play this more than Genshin. I feel and have heard that it's like a lot better in different ways than Genshin. But sorry, I'm so distracted by this game right now. This game? Fuck. While we're complaining about, I was going to tweet about this, but I forgot. When I disable redeem from the settings, sometimes it gets confused and pops up a message saying, are you sure you want to disable this? Because for some reason Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Oh my god, Duke. We were, while you were gone. This is what we were talking about before you got raided. We were talking about how Twitch and YouTube don't give enough platform to the smaller creators, so we go unseen a lot more. Do you have any opinions on that? Do you have anything to express on that? Do you also believe? Yeah, true. You can't see it, but I have like, I'm like air punch. I'm like fist pumping the air. I'm like, yeah, all of us, yeah. You got a new hot magician character. Hot magician character. Hot magician character. We need podcast advice right now. So, I really want to talk about how Twitch in general, as a company, as a streaming service, is not giving the smaller streamers enough light. What's your opinion on that, chat? Oh yeah, I'm also blocked by Twitter such autofill, or whatever the term is for that. They hate me there. They hate me. They think I'm too funny, so they have to ban me. They have to block my words. Okay? I think the last thing I said was a cat was gonna tell me the 11th commandment, and that was the last thing I remember posting before it all hit, and I found myself watching 5 hours of this kind of video. My Dogecoin? What the hell's Dogecoin? Little cat face. He's gonna tell me the 11th commandment. I could see it. I could see it in his jawline. He was mugging me. That cat is mugging me. Chat, if someone mugs you, they know the secret 11th commandment, and that's when you have to go get them, okay? What was it? Oh, hang on. I don't know if I'm logged into Twitter here. Am I logged into Twitter here? I am not. Hold on. Let me open something else. The 11th commandment. It's like 10 commandments from the Bible, but there's a secret 11th one. There's a secret little 11th one that not many people know about. Almost logged in. Good try that. Could you imagine you guys saw me logged in You guys saw me log in and you saw like my like email and my password. Yeah, what is it? I don't know. I don't know. You know who does know though? You know who does know? You know who does know the secret 11th commandment? This guy. This guy fucking knows the secret 11th commandment. You cannot tell me this fucker, this fuck ass cat does not know what the secret 11th commandment is, okay? Like, it's pretty good. You know it? You know it? You know the 11th commandment? What is it? This cat. Wait, chat, I need to show you something. I need to show you something. I need to show you something. Hold on, chat. Hold on. Where is it? Where is it? Mandrake root. Ruby. A serpent's head. I mean, why can't I turn this up even more? I like the little. It's so silly. It's so silly, right? It's so silly. Mandrake root. There's like another one where he's like, you put the wrong one in, and he gets thrown out the window, and he's just. Link that video, please. I want it. Yeah. Hold on. I got you. Mandrake root. Follow the channel. Vaporeon, the Katniss, the. Huh? What? I'm so confused. I'm just gonna put it in chat for everyone to go see if they really want to. You guys go see. You guys go watch that in your own time, okay? It's pretty good. It's pretty cute. Knuckles meme. This should be going through my bookmarks. This is just me going through my shitty little bookmarks. Oh my god. Holy shit. Guys, I'm gonna be so you guys you gotta you guys you got you guys you got guys you got guys you gotta hear me out. Guys, you gotta hear me out on this. Guys, you gotta hear me out on this. You gotta hear me out, fellas. Fellas, you gotta hear me. You gotta hear me out, fellas. You gotta hear me. Hear me out. He's just so hot. He's just so hot. You know that I love you, boy. Like, I just love him so much, chat. He's just so there's just so much love for that man. It's just so much love. What? There's another one. There's another one. Damn. Damn. Hmm? Hmm? Find the meme just for this? Maybe. Hmm. You guys want to see another funny video? You guys want to see another funny fucking... What does this mean? What does this fucking mean? What does that mean? I don't vaccinate. I don't sleep with vaccinated women. What does that even mean? Like, what the hell? I don't sleep. I don't sleep with vaccinated women. Why does it look like you got angel wings, bro? Why does it look like you got angel wings? You got tiny ass fucking legs. He has such a punchable face. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even on the Xbox. Literally.
I don't sleep with vaccinated women. That just means they work.
They what? Huh? I don't, what? That just means they what? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, that sentence confused me. Yeah, you showed that video and I thought, oh my god, impressing groove. Oh, the vaccines work. Okay, yeah, yeah. Everyone go get vaccinated. Go vaccinated. This is what I like to think I looked like when I was like standing up to my bullies. I had like my fist balled and like my veins were popping out of my arms, and I had a horrifying face rah, on rah. Oh my god. This is no, this is me when I can't eat my beans or my toast. This is me when you say I have to eat moldy bread. He's about to cry aggressively. I'm gonna punch him in the face. I'm gonna punch him in the face and he's gonna cry and scream and it's gonna be really funny. Literally any picture of any what? Any picture of Andrew Tate is just, it's just foul. It's just disgusting. It's just like it's just a foul man. I don't sleep with vaccinated women. Okay. Congrats. Like when your dad actually comes back after 5 minutes, it's not really bedtime. Oh my god. It's just me when I actually fits so well to what I say. Oh no, no McDonald's, no, we're boycotting McDonald's. Ew, sorry, the actual egg foam on that is disgusting. Would you guys eat like the egg water? Would you guys drink egg water? Be honest. Would you put your hand on that red hot skillet? Be honest. I would. I would. Wouldn't need to ask me twice. Probably 3 times, actually. Probably a good 3 times, and I'd do it. And I'd do it. Alpha male movement into a single container. Watch this video if you hate your girlfriend. Watch this video if you're an alpha male. Alpha males don't shit. Drink the egg water. Drink the egg water. I will drink the egg water. I'm actually need to drink water. Do you cry? Oh my god, that bacon. Do you cry yourself to sleep? That's not very alpha sigma of you. What you really need to do is you actually need to dress up as a burglar in a full suit. You need to get like a beanie with cut out the eyes, pull it down your face, go to your girlfriend's house, break into her house, but disguise your voice so she doesn't actually know it's you, okay, when you try to talk to her. Then just start stealing everything, okay? And then once you start stealing everything, just leave. Let your girlfriend get traumatized, and then later just call her up and then ask her how she's going. And when she goes to tell you that she got broken into, start gaslighting her, okay? That's the actual true alpha male way. And if you don't do it that way, then you aren't an alpha male, and you want to be an alpha male, right? That's something that you want to do. So that's what you should do. Break into your girlfriend's house as a burglar and steal all her shit. That's what you should do. You gay. There better have been an egg in that water, lady. So romantic. I love women though. What is that little thing sticking? What is that shit? What? Why does it have like a tendril? Why does it have like a little lobster tendril thing? What the hell is that? Was that like a whole whisker of a cat? What did he put? What the hell is that? Lady, you have a whisker in your food, ma'am. I would Okay. A little stream of egg when he cracked it. What? Hate that. Hate that so much. Never taking advice. You should always take advice from me. I think I have really good advice. I think I have great advice. Great advice. That was me. What? 4 sausages, nothing else. Hey guys, what are you ordering when you go to get food? When you go to get your breakfast in the morning? What are you ordering? Me personally, I'm getting two poached eggs, a sourdough bread, 4 big scoops of beans, about 40 hash browns, and like 1 sausage, and maybe 1 bacon, maybe 2 if I'm feeling a little bit freaky. Makes the world. Yeah, always listen to my relationship advice. If you go up to a guy and you just stare at him in the face and just breathe really heavily and don't blink. Actually, if you can make your eyes look like frogs, that'll really get him. That'll really get him, and he'll instantly fall in love with you and give you your number. Okay, listen to my advice, everyone. Listen to my advice, and it'll be great. Okay. I get full English, just throw all that shit on there, then I go back for seconds. That would eye contact? Are you kidding me? I can't really hold eye contact with people. I suck at it really bad. And for my work, they go to talk to me and I like avert their gaze and they like turn in, they're like, excuse me, and I'm like like looking away. I'm like, yes. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? It's so bad. It's so bad. That person's order was the devil. Mushroom and like 1 bit of bacon. Yeah, can I please get a really, really delicious thing, but then like, can you just add a bunch of disgusting fungus on top of it? That'll be really good. Thank you. Super safe. Eye contact with one of those nebulous things. Yep, that you have to do just right, or it's impolite or creepy. I like to do this thing with my eyes where at the bottom right in the corner, like where your tear ducts are, I can flex that muscle. So I like to just look at people like that sometimes, where I flex my like tear ducts, so it just makes my eyes look kind of like a frog. It'd be really cool. And then there's also the one where like I I think the shrooms. That was old person behavior. Yeah, that's possible. I can clench the muscles of my tear ducts. This is the blandest thing I've ever seen in my life. Are you kidding me? Where's like the salt? Where's the pepper? What are you adding? Oh my god, they're the worst. They are disgusting. That is... Are you kidding me? That's foul. Guys, this is where I just... What the hell is that? Oh, it's porridge. I was just like, is that maggots? That's maggots in a pot, dude. The little maggots in a pot. Now that's a weird physical trait. I don't know. I've been able to flex different parts of my bones, my like face muscles for a really long time. I can flex. There are some people who can't really flex their nose like a bunny, but I can do that. I can like move my nose like a bunny. Rumble and crack my ears. Whoa, what? Oh god, I've always wanted to crack my ears. I just have crackable joint. I just have a lot of crackable bones. But I can't exactly show that to people. Guys, you want to see me break my ear? Yeah, hold on. You go to bed. Good night, stupid. Have a wonderful sleep. I hope you have pleasant dreams and you have the best time of your life. Whoever ordered that egg mushroom bread must be a fun guy. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. Show me you cracking every single bone in your body, Gigi. Okay, listen. Good night. It's only when I wake up. When I wake up, I crack my wrist, all my fingers, then I crack my elbows, I crack my neck, then I have to crack my upper, middle, and lower back, then I crack my knees, and then my ankles, and then I do one more neck crack. And then throughout the stream, if you ever see me doing this, like randomly, which I do quite a bit, but like a lot of the times it's because I'm trying to crack my neck. Those scrambled eggs look so sad. Yuck. Good night. You mean that thing where you balance the pressure in your ears, the same crack that happens when you hold your nose and blow air through it? What? Rumbling, rumbling is coming, rumbling. Or a roo. Ew. It's like a million teeny tiny microbubble. Sounds like a star destroyer? That is such a specific kind of thing. Eggs and sausages. Pick that sausage, baby. Alright, now get some bacon. Yes! Yes! Skip over the mushrooms. Get a hash brown. Get a hash brown. Oh. Are you kidding me? Can we just need an order. We just need an order. We just need an order where it's like beans. Is that, what the fuck? Is that just like tomatoes? What is that? Like tomatoes? That's so confusing. We just need to get an order that's like sausages, bacon, beans. Bushka bacon, beans, bag. Big bag. Or ironically, this is my breakfast, but I pull it off the roll, or a bun. What? That's just so wet. Sorry, that is just such a wet breakfast, right? This is so wet. That hash browns are gonna get all soggy, and they're not gonna be. That was just the weirdest kind of thing ever. Fun fact about me and Coco are talking about is actually a technique taught by pro scuba divers, so they can. Yeah, that's what my stepdad does. Well, he doesn't scuba dive anymore, but he used to free dive. Um, he used to free dive, and he talked about pressure under the water a lot, and he was just like, yeah, like at one point where he was talking about how like the popping like for like the ear pressure was so crazy that he like went lightheaded and he nearly fainted under the water, and I was like, what? Like, what the fuck? And then he's like, yeah, I've also gone like underwater caving, and I was like, ugh, ew. Oh god, I hate caves, but can you imagine underwater caving? That pancake looks so good. I'm gonna put my whole face on that skillet. I'm not even like that. My hand going on there. My, I'm thinking about caving now. Yuck. Fun fact about me. I've already read that. It's this one. I just noticed he has a little hole to put an egg gunk in. Yeah, he has little holes all around. He's got an egg gunk hole at the end. It's all full of egg gunk. Craving seems cool. Throughout the day when he's hungry, he puts his little hand in there and he gets to decide how much egg he truly wants. Sometimes it's a whole handful, sometimes it's more than a whole handful, sometimes it's just a little tiny little finger. Both randomly learn to use a muscle that does one very. That's really cool though. It's really cool. And it was sweet, but it was surface level. Oh thank god. There were these caves. I forgot the name of the caves, but it's like a really, really far distance to them. I can't remember the name at all. But I remember I went there with my school one day. And what happened? I just realized that there's no music. That the music here is like. There we go. Okay, anyway. We went to this cave and it was like really, really pretty. There was a bunch of like stalagmites and stalactites and all this stuff. But I remember the second I couldn't see daylight, I freaked out and wanted to go back up to the surface because I got shown. Hang on. Because like a week before that, I got shown the movie The Descent, and it changed everything. That part looks disgusting, and it changed everything ever in my whole life. I became so scared of caves because of that fucking movie. That fuck ass movie. Hate The Descent. Horrible movie. We should all watch that in Discord one time. Maybe I'm not as scared of it anymore because when I saw it when I was little, so it was like terrifying to see. God, horrible. Mm-mm-mm. I don't understand people who need to like crawl. My God, they're crawling through the tiny space and like, yeah, my left rib is currently jammed up into a sharp rock and I can't feel my feet anymore, but I'm actually having the time of my life right now. Like, that is terrifying. Oh my God, like the one, Nutty Putty or Nutty Putty Cave, I think. Nutty Putty Cave is wild. That was crazy what happened. That makes me so scared of like caving in general. If like I already don't think about going on it, but if I was, I would be like, no, no. I go down a cool cave and it had elevators instead of stairs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If it was like, I'd go down to a cave if it's been like industrialized. I'd go down in there if there was like an elevator, if there was like a cool little like bar at the bottom. I'd go down. But then also I think I would remember that I was in a cave and I'd have to leave. I'd be like, guys, I gotta go. I just remembered where we're at and I can't do it. I can't actually possibly be here anymore. And it's air conditioned? Yeah. Well, you'd be underground. You'd be underground, so it'd be pretty cold. If you need to be more scared of caves, I'm gonna do that after stream. I don't want to read anything scary at the moment. I don't want to read anything scary at the moment, you know what I mean? Oh my God, they ruin it all the time when they put mushrooms on it. They literally suck. These people, these people suck. If you eat mushrooms, you're banned. Oh God, I want beans so bad. I think I actually have beans. I think I actually have a can of beans. Oh, it's so many. There's so many. There's so many beans. I mean, mushrooms. God, I'm not gonna stop thinking about beans, guys. Two whole eggs. Like some mushrooms I get, but he's just scooping them. I can like if I get handed a plate and there's maybe like a fork full of mushrooms, I would just like use my fork and take that off because that's like disgusting and bad. But I also just wouldn't order mushrooms. And if they come out and there's mushrooms, oh my God, he's gonna cook them. He's gonna cook them with them. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. This is good. They'll like light. Oh man. Oh dude, oh man. Man, I would fuck up that egg. I would fuck up that egg so hard. On the See, that looks so good, but then they lifted the egg and I see the mushroom and I would cry my eyes out. A 3-minute egg must be boiled for 3 minutes? Yeah, you can get a little egg tart. That's a good one. This is just turned into us reviewing breakfast items. You do know that you can make egg just like that at home. I know, but I don't have any egg. I don't have any egg. I just have beans. I don't even have bread. I don't even have milk. I don't even have my almond milk. I drank my almond milk. I have nothing. I need to go shopping. I need to go shopping again. Like, what the hell? Oh, God. Bacon and egg hash brown. Oh, are you kidding me? Get some of them. I'll get some off the stream. I'll get some off the stream. La da dee, la da doo, la da dum, la da dum, la da dee, la da doo. Let's find someone to raid. Let's find someone to raid, shall we? I'm thinking of streaming tomorrow, by the way. I might stream tomorrow. I might come back and stream tomorrow. I was actually expecting me to be longer. No. No. Watch them all. We need to watch 5 hours, all 5 hours. We're only 44 minutes in. We need to, yeah, I was not expecting the exit 8 to be that short. I'll be honest. I was expecting it to provide me, at least 2 hours. Um, but tomorrow we'll probably play some more Fallout, knowing me. Probably what? You gotta try making rice porridge with almond milk. It tastes amazing. I will. I will indeed. Oh, this is so good though. Like, this is so good. Oh my god, I'm actually like stuck on it. Okay, let's find someone to raid. Let's find someone to raid. Who shall we raid? Bum 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 bum. When they fall in the pan. Um, I literally just grab them. I just grab them in my from. Like, our family has a couple of cards. I'm sorry, Coco. I'm sorry to take it away. I'm sorry to take it away. What? What has a couple cartons of almond milk stock just for making porridge? God, that sounds so good. For only making porridge. God, I love porridge so much. I love porridge so much. Let's have a look. Who shall we rate? There's a lot of people online right now. Oh, Fawn. Fawn is doing their little just chatting. She's a little. Her stuff's really cool. She's really cool stuff right now. I'm gonna send you over to her. Have you made rice porridge before? Have you not? Maybe when I was like little, when I was like a little baby, when I was a little kid, I probably made some rice porridge pudding, possibly. Maybe. I don't know. um, I'll probably come back tomorrow. I'll probably come back tomorrow to stream, and it'll be really fun. I don't know what we're gonna play. I'll have a look. I'll have a look at some games. Hang on. Hang on. What? Hang on. I nearly just opened the wrong server. I just opened the wrong server. Hello? Oh, that kind of sucks. Okay. So, tomorrow, how about there's obviously Fallout 4. Who am I lying? Who am I kidding? Obviously Fallout 4 is one of the things that's on that list to play. I don't have money for the new Hades game, so we can't play the I also the Moomin game. Moomin game could be fun. Moomin game could be very, very fun. Maybe Moomin game or some Supermarket Sim. Supermarket Sim could be really fun to play actually. I don't know. We'll see what happens when I wake up. We'll see what happens when I wake up when we get to there. When we get to that, okay? Let's go raid Fawn. She has a really, really cool setup and just like VTuber in general. Her stuff's so cool. Okay. Thank you so much for hanging around for this somewhat short stream. I didn't realize that it was gonna be so short. But I will have to make rice porridge soon. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you all very, very soon. I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow. Short and sweet. I'm here for business. I'm here for business and work. Remember to copy. Oh, you're so right. Remember to copy the raid message. I will see everyone very, very soon. I have something to eat, something to drink. Goodbye. Goodbye.